heart. And somehow, at some point, she had entered Lucas's heart too. That day, I was not heartbroken or disappointed, and I did not make a scene. Instead, I dumped the cake into the trash and smashed the birthday gift to pieces. Then I locked the door and unlocked for my child a childhood memory he would never forget. Chapter 1. On Lucas's 6th birthday, Eric once again had no time. I made the cake with my own hands and bought the toy Lucas wanted. I decorated the living room in his favorite Ultraman theme. Everything I did was meant to give him a happy birthday. Watching Lucas's little body wearing a birthday hat and making his wish with such seriousness, I was in an excellent mood. Even my usually annoying mother-in-law looked a little more tolerable. After blowing out the candles, my mother-in-law asked Lucas, "My good grandson, what did you wish for?" Lucas looked at me with his big eyes, and I smiled gently at him. "Go ahead. Mommy wants to know too." His childish voice came out. "I wish Aunt Elena could be my mommy." The smile on my face froze. I blinked, unable to believe it. Even my mother-in-law looked incredulous. "My good grandson, what did you say?" Lucas lifted his innocent little face. He repeated what he had just said, "I want Aunt Elena to be my mommy." His words were like a bucket of cold water dumped over my head. They chilled me to the core. I looked at this child I had carried for 10 months. He had never been an easy child. From the moment he was born, he could not be separated from me. The crying, the nighttime wake-ups, all of it had exhausted me physically and emotionally, and yet I had still found him unbearably adorable. But now, his birthday wish was for another woman to be his mother. This was not my precious baby. This was a demon, a monster, and monsters should be punished. The living room went completely silent. My mother-in-law held Lucas with a smile that was not quite a smile. She was mocking the failure of my parenting. The nanny, Monica, stood off to the side, unable to stop picking at her fingers, doing everything she could to make herself invisible. As for Lucas, those round eyes of his did not reveal what he was thinking, but I knew that whatever it was, it definitely was not something that would make me happy. After being a mother and compromising for so long, I had almost forgotten that I was the kind of person who always settled scores. I picked up the birthday cake from the table. On the cake was a drawing of the three of us as a family. My skills were not very good, and I had smeared Eric's face with chocolate syrup until it looked like a pile of crap. A cake this unappetizing in the first place should never have existed. Under their stares, I threw the cake into the trash can. The moment he saw the cake thrown away, Lucas screamed, "Aw, my cake!" My mother-in-law was always secretly feeding Lucas candy, and at such a young age his little teeth had already turned black. That was why I normally did not let him eat sweets. He had been looking forward to today's cake for a long time. I glanced at Lucas. My look frightened him, and he shrank into my mother-in-law's arms. Seeing that, my mother-in-law immediately turned displeased with me. "Gloria, is that really necessary? Kids say things without thinking. Why are you stooping to a child's level?" After saying that to me, she hugged Lucas and soothed him. "Good grandson. Grandma will have someone buy you a new cake. Your favorite Haagen-Dazs cake. All right? Mommy is bad. We won't pay attention to bad mommy." Lucas copied her and pointed at me. "Bad mommy. Bad mommy?" Today I was going to show him exactly what a bad mommy looked like. I pulled out Eric's favorite golf club from the cabinet. The club gleamed with a beautiful metallic sheen. It was probably worth at least the price of a car. If a son is not taught, the fault lies with the father. Eric, as his father, had never taught Lucas a single good thing. He even brought his mistress right in front of the child. In that case, wrecking one of his golf clubs was hardly too much, was it? Chapter 2. What are you doing? Dragging the golf club behind me, I walked step by step toward my mother-in-law and Lucas. Lucas's birthday gift was a large building block castle. I had not had time to bring it out yet because I wanted to surprise him. I told Monica to go to the bedroom and bring out the box. Right in front of Lucas, I opened the gift box. Looking at the beautiful castle, he could not help letting out a wow. His eyes lit up as he looked at me, completely different from the way he had looked just moments ago when he wanted someone else to be his mother. "Mom, is this my birthday present?" I smiled. "A moment ago. Yes, now it isn't." Bang! The silver golf club traced a beautiful arc through the air. The castle shattered on impact. It smashed the castle, and it also smashed his beautiful childhood. looking at his little face instantly covered in tears, and at my mother-in-law's shocked old face. I swung the club again and again, until the blocks were broken to pieces and the club itself bent out of shape. Lucas cried so hard his voice tore. "No, you bad mommy. I don't want you as my mommy anymore. I want Aunt Elena." I tugged at the corner of my mouth. I yanked Lucas out of my mother-in-law's arms. His crying grew even louder, so shrill it made my head pound. I casually grabbed a wad of tissues and stuffed it into his mouth. My mother-in-law was stunned by what I did. "What are you going to do to my precious grandson, Monica? Hurry and call Eric and tell him to come back. His wife has gone crazy." I did not answer her. I dragged Lucas upstairs. I went into my bedroom and locked the door. Lucas's crying quieted a little. He stopped shouting for Elena and instead clawed at the door, calling for Grandma. He knew that only Grandma could save him. I snapped off 3 vine stalks from a houseplant and looked down at him from above. This was also my first time being a mother. I had no experience. All I had done was spoil him, love him, and give him the very best of everything. Since he did not respond to that, then I would change methods. I might not know how to discipline a child, but I had trained dogs. When a dog bares its teeth at you for the first time, you have to make it understand the price of baring its teeth. You have to leave it with a memory that makes it never dare bare its teeth at you again. That day, I broke 3 vine switches. I smashed all of Lucas's toys. Lucas cried inside the room, and my mother-in-law cried outside the door. The grandmother and grandson played a duet like a symphony, easing the fatigue of my labor. An hour later, the sound of a door opening came from outside, followed by a man's voice. Eric had come back. The Eric who said the company had important matters, who did not even have time to celebrate his son's birthday, had finally returned. "Gloria, open the door." Right after that came a woman's voice. "Sister Gloria, hurry and open the door. Lucas is only a child." Hearing that voice, my hand, which had been about to open the door, paused. Elena's voice was urgent. She sounded even more concerned about Lucas than Eric, his own father. I turned to look at Lucas. At the sound of Elena's voice, he lifted his eyes, but then seemed to remember something and quickly lowered his head again. "Gloria, even if you're angry, you can't take it out on Lucas. No wonder Lucas doesn't like you." I sneered and pulled open the door. The scene inside made them suck in a breath. My mother-in-law could not take it anymore and rushed into the room to hug Lucas. The room was in complete chaos. Lucas's tiny body was kneeling on the floor, with bloody welts striping his back and buttocks. "Oh, my precious grandson, Gloria, you vicious woman. Lucas is truly cursed to have a mother like you. If you hit my precious grandson again, I won't go on living." I sneered. "Fine, if you don't want to live, then go die." Chapter 3. My mother-in-law's crying stopped short. She had not expected me to say that. "Gloria, what exactly are you trying to do? Is this how you act as a mother?" This father, who had been a hands-off parent ever since the child was born, always loved asking me, "Is this how you act as a mother?" What right did he have to ask that? Looking at this face, now puffy and no longer youthful, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. "Ah!" Eric's head snapped to the side. I had put all my strength into that slap, and my palm burned from the impact. His cheek swelled red immediately. After all these years of taking care of a child and soothing a child, I was no longer that frail girl who could neither carry nor lift anything. Now, as a mother, I had become strong. He stared at me in disbelief. "Have you lost your mind?" Elena pointed at me. How can you hit people?" Her soft fingers touched Eric's face, and the pain in her eyes was impossible to hide. "Eric, does it hurt?" "Gloria, even if you're angry, you can't hit people, can you? Lucas is only 6. He only wanted me to be his mother, and yet you could be so vicious. No wonder Eric and Lucas don't like you." Smack! I backhanded Elena across the face. Trash comes in pairs, so my slap ought to be given as a pair too. I said it already. Now, as a mother, I am strong. Ah! Elena's scream rang through the villa. Eric stopped dwelling on how much that slap hurt and hurried to hold her. He threw down the ultimatum. "Gloria, we're getting divorced. I've had enough of you." My mother-in-law rushed out from behind me with Lucas in her arms. "Divorce? Our family has no need for a daughter-in-law as vicious as you. I lowered my head to look at Lucas. His little face was crying so hard that it looked like a smudged kitten. His back and buttocks had been beaten until there was not a single patch of skin left whole, and his little brows were knitted tightly as he endured the pain. I asked him, "Lucas, your father wants to divorce your mother. What do you think?" Elena quickly said, "Lucas, would you like Aunt Elena to be your mommy? If they divorce, Auntie can be your mommy. Your daddy and grandma are both here, so go ahead and say it. Don't worry, she won't dare hit you again." My mother-in-law stroked his head. "Good grandson. Your birthday wish is about to come true." Eric also looked at him encouragingly, but Lucas shook his head. "I don't want them to divorce. I don't want daddy and mommy to divorce." Afraid that he did not understand what divorce meant, Elena crouched down and coaxed him. "Lucas, don't you want Auntie to be your mommy? As long as they get divorced, Auntie can be your mommy. Your daddy and grandma are both here, so say it without worry. She won't dare hit you again." Lucas looked at me, his head shaking like a rattle drum. "No, I only have one mommy. Mommy, I'm sorry." He shook off Elena's hand and threw himself at me. "The child I gave birth to must never become the blade that stabs me." He was still young and did not understand many things. Without a formed sense of right and wrong or a stable worldview, he was easily misled. He did not understand what it would mean for Elena to become his mother. This was not about a slice of cake or a toy. I could explain it to him, and I could correct him. This time, I could forgive him, but it would never be forgiveness without any cost. Today, in his 6th year, I taught him his first lesson. When reason does not work, force is more effective at making people submit. And clearly, my husband and my mother-in-law had never learned that lesson either. I did not mind teaching them along the way while I was educating my son. Chapter 4. Holding Lucas in my arms, I said to the dumbfounded Eric, "Transfer all your company shares to me, and I'll divorce you. In your dreams." I raised an eyebrow. Since he would not agree, then there was nothing left to discuss. Just as I was about to turn and head downstairs, Elena stopped me. "Wait, you slapped me. I'm calling the police." I looked at her with a half smile. "Go ahead. I'm willing to pay compensation, using the marital assets Eric spent on you. But Elena, I can reclaim marital assets at any time. Can you afford to pay them back?" Elena's face instantly turned deathly pale. Eric had spent quite a lot on her over the past year. Eric shielded Elena behind him. "Don't scare her. I gave all of that willingly." Eric had been handsome in his younger days too, lean and refined. But at his age, still acting out this kind of idle drama nonsense was just disgusting. I curved my eyes slightly. "Your affair really moves me. A cheating man and a mistress woman. You." Lucas had already worn himself out after all the commotion and was getting drowsy. I had no mood to keep tangling with them. I said to Eric, "Just letting you know, clean out my office. I'm coming back to work at the company next Monday." After saying that, I left with Lucas. Behind me came Eric's useless barking. "You're going back to work? Then who's going to take care of the kid? Can you stop making trouble? Either get divorced, or stay home and take care of the child properly." The emerging company Eric managed now had originally been founded by me, Eric, and Ryan together. Back when we had just graduated, the three of us were best friends. Eric came from a poor family, but he was talented and willing to work hard. At that time, relying on sheer passion and the 800,000 yuan Ryan and I scraped together, we founded Xinxing. Later, as the company grew bigger and bigger, Eric and I gradually fell in love. After getting married and having a child, Lucas kept me so tied down that I could no longer spare any energy to manage the company. My position as vice president existed in name only, but in my hands, I had always held 35% of the shares. By the time I brought Lucas to my flat in the city center, he was already fast asleep. I gently dabbed iodine on his wounds. It would be a lie to say my heart did not ache, but no matter how much it hurt, I could not let him go on like this. Over the past few days, I had already found a professional childcare team. I would not continue being a full-time mother at home, and Lucas could not be left in my mother-in-law's care either. Fortunately, money was not something I lacked. On Monday morning, I put on a suit I had not worn in a long time and drove to the company building. I had not been back in 2 years. Back then, Xinxing had only been a small company in an office building. Now, the entire building belonged to Xinxing. I was just about to go upstairs when a security guard stopped me. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. It was normal that the guard did not recognize me, but it was not normal that he identified me at a glance as unauthorized personnel. I was about to speak when a man's voice suddenly sounded behind me. "She's not unauthorized." I turned around. Ryan was standing behind me with a smile on his face. "Gloria, long time no see." He had not changed much. He had not become greasy or let himself go. There was now a hint of mature masculinity about him. I smiled, but the young security guard who had stopped me said awkwardly, "Boss." But Secretary Elena instructed us not to let her in. Ryan's face darkened, and he said coldly, "Since when does a secretary get to call the shots at this company?" The guard lowered his head and did not dare say a word, but he still stood in front of the turnstile, refusing to let me through. Chapter 5. This was absolute upside-down nonsense. Every last bit of my patience was gone. A crowd of employees had already gathered in the first-floor lobby to watch the spectacle. Even Ryan looked a little embarrassed. A dignified vice president, blocked by security downstairs in her own company. If word got out, people would laugh their heads off. But that was fine. If they would not let me in, then I would get myself in. In the first-floor lobby hung a steel sword in midair. It was the sword of Damocles I had specially commissioned back then, when Eric and Ryan wanted the company to look smooth and prosperous. I had insisted on putting up that sword. The steel sword weighed more than 40 Gene. Even though it was not sharpened, it was still perfectly handy for smashing things. I am a very reasonable person. A turnstile that could not even recognize my face was obviously no good. In that case, what was the point of keeping it if I was not going to smash it? Bang, bang. One blow after another rang through the lobby. The security guards were dumbfounded, and the employees watching the drama all took out their phones to record this rare piece of juicy gossip. This thing was much harder to smash than a block castle. After hammering at it for a long time, I had only managed to expose some of the wires inside. Just as I was about to keep going, Elena came downstairs from above. "What are you doing?" "Security. Hurry and stop this crazy woman." The security guards were about to come at me, but Ryan stepped forward and stood in front of me. "Secretary Elena, Gloria is the company's vice president. What authority do you have to stop her?" Elena looked as if she had swallowed a fly, with everyone watching, and Ryan standing in the way. She could not exactly have security throw me out. I dragged the steel sword into the elevator, brushing past Elena. Looking at Elena outside, I curved my eyes slightly. "Tell Eric his daddy has come with the sword of Damocles to pass judgment on him." The elevator doors closed, and Ryan laughed out loud. There was admiration in his eyes. "Gloria, after all these years, you haven't changed at all." I said nothing. We had all changed. We were no longer those hot-blooded youths who valued loyalty above all else. The top floor was where the executives' offices were. My office had originally been the largest room. Only today did I discover that Eric had actually knocked through the walls and merged it with his own. This bastard was shameless to the extreme. Ryan patted my shoulder. "This is your family matter with him. I won't go in." I stopped him. "This isn't a family matter," with Ryan leading the way. Getting into Eric's office was completely unimpeded. Eric sat behind his desk with a dark face. It was obvious he knew perfectly well what had happened downstairs. "Gloria, can you stop making a scene?" I did not want to waste words with him. I took out my share certificate from my bag. "Eric, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Within 1 hour, separate out everything that already belongs to me, projects, departments, this office, all of it. Otherwise, I'll sell all my shares to Ryan right now." Eric's expression changed drastically. He knew that if I were willing to sell those shares, Ryan would buy them even if he had to sell everything he owned to do it. Before we got married, in order to avoid unnecessary disputes within the company, we had notarized the shareholding. The original shares in my hand had never moved all these years. The proportion of shares held by Eric and Ryan had always remained roughly the same. But regardless of whether I had notarized them or not, I was still Eric's wife. Our household held 56% of the shares. Because I had not shown up for the past 2 years, Eric had long since begun treating my shares as something already in his pocket. And he had already started to move toward one-man dominance. When people are conquering the world together, they are like brothers. But now that the company was stable, Every fraction of profit became a source of conflict. One mountain cannot hold two tigers. There was no reason for Ryan to be willing to stay in a subordinate position forever. Chapter 6. Now I had returned to the company, and in this way no less. No one was happier to see this situation than Ryan, and yet he still put on a show of reluctance. Gloria, this isn't very appropriate, is it? Eric lifted his eyes to look at Ryan, who was grinning with undisguised schadenfreude, then ground out through clenched teeth at me. Gloria, you're ruthless. He pressed the line to his secretary and called Elena in. Elena walked in full of arrogance, even snorting coldly when she passed by me. But the moment she heard Eric's words, all her swagger vanished. Elena frowned and whined coquettishly. Eric, how can you let her come back? How is everyone in the company supposed to look at me after this? Eric waved his hand, clearly unwilling to say more. Just do as I said. Elena blinked, and her eyes instantly filled with tears. Seeing that staring at Eric was useless, she turned and looked at me with venom in her eyes. I suddenly found it fascinating. It was rare to see a mistress act as righteously as she did. In that case, why not let her be even more righteous about it? I lifted my chin and said with a smile, I want this secretary too. Eric slammed his hand on the desk and shot to his feet. Don't push it too far. I smiled and lightly shook my share certificate. Please part with her. Under Elena's disbelieving stare, Eric nodded with a dark face. With the threat of the share transfer hanging over him, Eric moved extremely fast. Within 1 hour, he not only restructured the departments directly under me, but also handed over 2 projects that were currently under negotiation. It was just that every single person in those departments looked more crooked and useless than the last. Eric's intention could not have been more obvious. He had thrown me a pile of fringe people and stuffed me with 2 unimportant projects to brush me off. Even with an extra vice president and an extra department, it would not have any real impact on the company, and I would never be able to touch the truly core projects. As time went on, I would have no real standing in the company either, if I was unwilling to accept it and tried to lay people off, restructure the department, and overhaul everything with drastic reforms. The severance payouts for the whole department alone would be an enormous sum. I had been away from the workplace for years. My sensitivity to company operations, project risk, and employee capability had all declined far too much. With my current ability, I would absolutely wreck this department. Eric did not need to do anything else. As long as he used Lucas to distract me even a little, I would ruin everything. I have never been the type of fool who insists on proving herself. I have always believed that professional matters should be left to professionals. That very day, I found a professional headhunter and poached a career manager with a high salary, lowering herself to come manage my little department. Her annual salary was completely out of proportion to the returns my department could bring in. But that was fine. Right now, the one thing I lacked least was money. What I lacked was a way to quickly break into the company's internal structure and establish a firm foothold. When I came to work the next morning, the turnstiles downstairs had already been replaced with new ones, and that little security guard from yesterday was nowhere to be seen. Eric's office had already started being torn down and renovated. Ryan wanted to give me his office, but I refused. I gave the manager's office in my department to Noah, the manager I had recruited. I went straight to Department 3, the area with the densest concentration of employees. Department 3 was Eric's department, the one holding the company's core projects. I had someone clear out a desk for me, and I worked directly out in the staff hall. As for my secretary, naturally she had to follow me and stand there with me under everyone's gaze. From the moment I arrived that morning, Elena had been trailing behind me. Eric had kept his word. He really had handed over the woman he cherished so much to me. He wanted Elena to keep an eye on me. I lifted my eyes and glanced at Elena, whose eyes were red. She did not look like someone capable of completing that task smoothly. Chapter 7. I opened the file. Even though I had not worked in a long time, I could tell at a glance that the figures in the document were falsified and heavily padded. I curled my lips into a smile. If they did not want me to have an easy time, then they should not expect one either. Elena, go downstairs and buy me a cup of coffee. Elena, are you trying to make me suffer to death with bitterness? It's so hot. Are you doing this on purpose so I can't drink it? I don't want coffee anymore. Buy me a glass of orange juice instead. By the time Elena put the orange juice on my desk, It was already almost lunchtime. Her eyes and the tip of her nose were red and swollen. It looked like she had already cried several times. Everyone in the hall appeared to be working with their heads down, but in reality they were all paying close attention to everything happening on my side. I glanced at the orange juice and did not touch it. Just before I was about to speak, Elena could not hold back anymore and asked in a tearful voice, "What else do you want?" I laughed. With psychological endurance this week, what business did she have being a mistress? I did not answer her. Instead, I stood up and addressed the people in the hall. "Sorry for borrowing space in your department. Lunch is on me today. Elena, go ask everyone what they want to eat and buy it all before lunchtime. Then deliver it to the office. No matter where they go. Mistresses are always despised by everyone." These people had watched me torment Elena all morning. Now it was their turn. In one unified voice, they said, "Thank you, boss's wife." I pointed at the nameplate on the desk and said with a smile, "Don't call me the boss's wife." A neat chorus sounded again, "Thank you, General Manager Gloria." I turned to look at Elena, and at last her tears burst out uncontrollably. "Elena, I want the malatang from the place across the street. No cilantro, no garlic, less sesame paste, more vinegar. I want barbecued pork rice, double meat with beef and char siu, no chili." The employees all called out one after another, ordering all kinds of food. For a department of over 100 people, they somehow managed to order from 60 or 70 different restaurants. Elena clenched her teeth as tears fell one by one. Didn't she say she didn't want status or a title, only love? I wanted to see how long Eric's love could keep her enduring this. The workplace is always the quickest to judge people based on the situation. Everything that had happened that morning spread through the entire company. Even a video of Elena secretly wiping away tears had circulated. At noon, Ryan invited me to lunch. I checked the time. It was already almost half an hour past lunch, and Elena still had not returned. I told the others in the office, "Looks like Elena won't be bringing lunch back after all. Pick any restaurant near the company. Go eat, and I'll cover it." By the time Elena returned, she found that the whole department had emptied out. For the entire afternoon, Elena did not show up again. At 4 in the afternoon, the nanny at home called me and said that a woman claiming to be my mother-in-law had shown up at the door. Ever since Lucas's birthday, we had never gone back to the villa. That flat was in my name, and my mother-in-law did not have the code. The nanny answered only to me, without my word. No one could take Lucas away. Just after I hung up, my mother-in-law's call came in. She immediately started questioning me. "Gloria, why are you hiding my grandson? Hurry up and bring my precious grandson back. Come back and take proper care of the child. What kind of shady people did you hire? And they wouldn't even let me in. What kind of decent woman goes around showing her face in public like that? You even went to the company to make a scene. The fact that my son doesn't like you is no surprise at all. If you bring the child back now, I'll still treat you as one of our family." Was being part of their family supposed to be some great honor? I hung up on her directly and blocked her while I was at it. Absolutely ridiculous. Chapter 8. I had HR mark Elena's absence that afternoon as an unexcused absence. Company rules stated that 3 days of unexcused absence meant automatic resignation. Elena did not come for 2 days in a row, and on the third day she showed up just before the deadline that would have counted as resignation. She was wearing a new Chanel suit, carrying a white Hermes bag in her hand. There was also a diamond necklace around her neck. It seemed Eric had compensated her quite a bit for the grievance she suffered that day. She set her bag down on the desk, and with her hand covered in long manicured nails raised to her mouth, she said, "Gloria, I wasn't feeling well these past 2 days, so I went out to rest for a bit. I didn't have time to tell you. You won't blame me, will you?" She embodied pretentious affectation to the fullest. I curved my eyes into a smile. This was only the beginning. 1 or 2 days might be easy enough to endure, but what about 1 week or 2? There were endless ways to make things difficult for someone. Eric might be able to soothe her today with a white Hermes bag, but he could not buy one every single day. A week later, Elena stopped coming again. At last, Eric could no longer hold back and stepped in personally. He asked me to bring Lucas back home for dinner as well. This time, I did not refuse. I returned to the villa with Lucas and the childcare specialist Angelica. The moment my mother-in-law saw Lucas, She hurried over. Oh, Grandma missed her precious grandson so much. Come, let Grandma give you a kiss. Before she could even touch Lucas, Angelica stopped her. Sorry. There are many germs in an adult's mouth. Lucas has weak immunity, so it is not appropriate for him to come into contact with your saliva. My mother-in-law was stunned by Angelica's words. Lucas, standing to the side like a little grown-up, said, Grandma, teacher is right. Doing that is unhygienic. Under my mother-in-law's dumbfounded stare, Lucas obediently went to wash his hands and sat down. Just as my mother-in-law was about to blow up, Eric and Elena came out of the upstairs bedroom. It looked like they had already moved into my bedroom, with the air of a hostess. Elena greeted me. Gloria, you're here. I told Angelica to take Lucas off to play. They had not called me back today just to show off that she had taken over the house. Gloria, this is the divorce agreement. If it looks fine to you, then sign it. Eric kept his head lowered beside her. Even though things had already reached the point of divorce, he still let a woman step forward for him. I gave him a long look, then opened the divorce agreement. $3 million in assets under his name, 1 house and 1 car, willing to give all cash to MS. Gloria, the divorce agreement was full of loopholes. He was not stupid, since he dared write it like this. It meant he could make it look, on paper, as though those were the only assets under his name. I closed the agreement. Fine, I'll have my lawyer contact you to conduct a proper asset settlement. Gloria, the child can go to you, but you must guarantee that you will not sell your shares to Ryan. I looked at Elena's slightly protruding belly and smiled mockingly. Eric, you're the one who cheated. What right do you have to fight me for custody of the child? Add one more clause. Lucas cuts off all ties with your family, and then I can give you a guarantee letter promising never to transfer my shares to anyone. My mother-in-law shot to her feet at once and stared at Eric. Lucas is our family's bloodline. Eric frowned and remained silent for a long time. Fine. My mother-in-law stood frozen in place, staring at her son in disbelief. After years of being steeped in the business world, there was nothing more important to him than profit. I smiled in satisfaction. Not far away, Lucas had witnessed everything. Chapter 9. The property settlement moved extremely quickly, and the actual figures matched the amounts stated in the agreement. Elena resigned. I heard she was staying home to rest during her pregnancy, just waiting for us to get the divorce certificate so she could marry Eric. Eric and I would occasionally run into each other at the company, but neither of us spoke. Once the divorce cooling-off period ended, we smoothly got our divorce certificate. After getting it, I did not say a single word to him. We had once loved each other too. We had endured the hardest days together. When I found lipstick on his shirt, when I saw Elena's messages, I gave him chances, and I swallowed my pain and pretended not to see. But what about him? He said he only now understood that what he had with me was merely familial affection. What he had with Elena was love. After the divorce, Ryan ordered French food to celebrate for me and also sent me a huge bouquet of flowers to congratulate me on my new life. Roses, fragrant, but with thorns. After the celebration, I quickly changed Lucas's surname. Ryan had already started making his move on his end. Early the next morning, when I arrived at the company, I happened to see the police taking Eric away. I was not surprised. I looked at him with a smile. The moment he saw me, Eric understood everything. I had signed the divorce agreement so cleanly. I had not used his affair to demand money. He had only given me $3 million and sent me off. And all of it had been waiting for him right here. Elena was pregnant. A child waits for no one. Eric did not want the child to carry the stigma of being illegitimate, so he absolutely had to divorce me. I knew very well that as long as he wanted to, there was no way I would get the share of property that belonged to me during the divorce. Eric would definitely transfer the assets and leave no trace behind. So I returned to the company and joined forces with Ryan. On one hand, I made things difficult for Elena, forcing Eric to transfer assets and speeding up the divorce. On the other hand, I provoked Elena. To soothe Elena's emotions, Eric would certainly spend money on her, but while transferring assets, Eric could only embezzle company funds first, and once it was checked, they found he had already used $20 million. He thought that as long as he quietly put the company money back after the divorce, everything would be fine. He never expected that all of this had been a trap we laid for him. His core projects were run through a separately established team that outsiders could not access. I had spent so long working in Department 3 not just so they could treat me like some monkey on display. After Eric was taken away, my lawyer immediately sued him for illegally transferring marital assets. If he wanted to put that money back, he would inevitably have to admit to illegally transferring marital property. Either way, he could not escape the charge of embezzling company funds. The amount was huge, enough to send him to prison for a good long while. Not a single cent of the money that belonged to me was going to be missing. After Eric was arrested, his mother came to find me several times. I had bodyguards around me, so she did not even get a chance to come near. The top floor office was finally finished. These days, I was like a sponge, frantically making up for the years I had lost. Now that I had some room to breathe, I worked even harder, almost forgetting food and sleep. Aside from spending time with Lucas, all my other time was spent at the company. Whenever Ryan had time, he would bring me food. As time went on, rumors unexpectedly started spreading around the company. Some people said he had stayed unmarried all these years because he had been waiting for me. Others said he had secretly loved me back when we were young, weaving the three of us into a complicated love triangle. Rumors die with the wise, so at first I did not care. But the rumors only grew more and more intense, and Ryan also began to seem more and more off. Every single day, without fail, he sent a bouquet of roses to my office. He took detours to drive me to and from work. Even when I drove myself, he still followed behind me. I told him bluntly, "Stop sending me flowers," but he asked whether I simply did not like roses and said he could send something else. The rumors intensified more and more. It just so happened that the company's annual gala was coming up. My first major occasion since returning, as the company's largest shareholder. I had also prepared a speech. After the speech ended, the lights suddenly went dark. A bad feeling rose in my heart. Chapter 10. Soft music began to play through the speakers as Ryan walked onto the stage holding a bouquet of flowers. He was going to confess to me in front of the entire company. He stepped onto the stage and looked at me with deep feeling. "Gloria, the truth is, I've liked you for a long time. Back when we started the company together, in that tiny office barely over 100 square feet. It was you who encouraged me. I've been waiting for you all this time." In his eyes was a kind of devotion so cloying it made me sick. I looked at him, my gaze utterly without warmth. Eric was scum, and Ryan was no better. These years, although he never married, there had been a constant stream of women around him. The rumors had spread so long that even he himself had started to believe them. For the sake of getting my shares, he could even say something revolting. A man already in his 30s, and he still wanted to play some pure, innocent love story. At last, after listening to him finish, I snatched the microphone. I curved my eyes into a smile. "You deserve someone better, not someone like me, who's the very best." Then I turned to the employees below the stage and said, "Ryan was just joking with everyone. Let's continue the annual gala." I put down the microphone and stepped off the stage without caring about Ryan's expression. Did he really think I had lived all these years for nothing? Ryan and Eric had long since put profit above all else. Their mouths were full of lies. When men get money, they go bad. So why should anyone assume that when women get money, they will still stay in place as those innocent, kind little white flowers? The next day, the video of his confession at the annual gala was posted online. Netizens cast him as the deeply devoted second male lead in some novel, while I was the ungrateful heroine. They mocked me as a divorced woman with a child, saying I still dared to reject a diamond bachelor like Ryan. The internet was filled with insults directed at me. Ryan was manipulating public opinion behind the scenes and orchestrating online harassment against me. In my office, my assistant handed me the project files Ryan had rejected. Every document that passed through his hands that morning had been turned down. The business world is like a battlefield, and nothing is more taboo than acting out of emotion and arrogance. He wanted to make me lower my head this way. Dream on. He would pay the greatest price for his arrogance. A month later, Eric's case was finally decided. For embezzling a huge sum of company funds, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. After repaying the embezzled money, Eric still had to pay me the marital assets he had transferred during the marriage. I went to see him. He looked much more haggard and had grown thinner. He even looked a little like he had back when we first started the company. The moment he saw me, His eyes reddened instantly. Gloria, I regret it. I shouldn't have treated you that way. You were so good to me. I really regret it. Elena, she aborted the baby. That was exactly what I had expected. The child's father was in prison. It was perfectly normal for her to abort it. The tears of a scumbag were not worth a cent. But right now, I still needed to play along a little. Eric, behave yourself in there and reform properly. I'll help you look after things outside. Ryan has changed. He's suppressing me at the company, buying up scattered shares to weaken my position. You don't want to see the company we built together swallowed up by Ryan either, do you? At first, when I brought up his shares, he resisted, but as time passed, I was the only one who visited him. I brought him food and drinks, showed concern, and asked after him. When a person is in trouble, even a blade of grass can feel like a lifeline. In just 3 months, I had gotten proxy control over his shares, buying up scattered shares, winning over board members, reconvening the board meeting, electing a chairman. Only then did Ryan realize he had underestimated me. While he was still thinking about how to force me into being with him, I was already setting things in motion to drive him out of the company. Chapter 11. Ryan's influence in the company was simply too great. Even after I became chairwoman and restricted him at every turn, it still took me 2 full years to seize the real power from his hands. In these 2 years, the percentage of shares in my hands had already exceeded 50%. The company had become entirely mine to command. Lucas had already started elementary school. Ever since the day Eric abandoned him for profit, he had never again mentioned his father. I had arranged for Eric's mother to live back in their hometown. Since I was going to act as proxy for Eric's shares, I naturally could not mistreat his mother. As for the shares in Eric's hands, there were still 6 more years to go. By the time he got out, the world would have completely changed. That day, while I was dining out with Lucas, a burst of cursing suddenly rang out. I looked up and saw a familiar face. Elena was grabbing a young girl and shouting things like mistress and slut at her. The man beside them rushed over and slapped Elena. Shut up and get back home right now. The girl Elena had grabbed was crying pitifully. The one who isn't loved is the real mistress. He and I truly love each other. After saying that, the girl left the restaurant in the man's arms. Only Elena was left standing there alone, covering her face. I withdrew my gaze and took Lucas into the private room. Maybe that was karma.